They laughed when he asked for a chance. They ignored him when he asked for help. And when he finally succeeded, those same people suddenly wanted to be part of his life again. But by then, everything had already changed. Everyone faces rejection at some point in life, but sometimes rejection becomes the very thing that builds the strongest people. Today's story is about a man who was rejected by everyone around him, friends, family, even the people he trusted the most. But years later, success would force them all to see him differently. Before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy powerful life stories like this. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to share more inspiring stories. Now, let's begin. Adrian Cole grew up in a quiet town where ambition was often mistaken for arrogance. It was the kind of place where most people followed the same predictable path: finish school, find a stable job, settle down, and never aim too high. Dreaming too big was something people laughed about. From a young age, Adrian felt different. While other kids talked about ordinary plans for their future, Adrian spent hours imagining ideas far beyond the small town he lived in. He loved thinking about businesses, inventions, and ways to build something meaningful. But every time he shared those dreams, the reactions were always the same. People smiled politely at first. Then, they laughed. "Why would someone like you succeed? People from this town don't build big things. You should focus on something realistic." Even some of his teachers doubted him. One teacher once told him after class, "Adrian, ambition is good, but you need to understand your limits." Those words stayed in his mind longer than anyone expected. At home, the support he hoped for wasn't there either. His parents weren't cruel people. They simply believed life was about safety, not risk. Whenever Adrian talked about creating something big one day, his father would shake his head and say, "Dreams don't pay bills." Slowly, the message became clear. No one truly believed Adrian could become anything extraordinary. Friends stopped taking his ideas seriously. Teachers treated him like another unrealistic dreamer. Even his family believed he would eventually give up and live a normal life like everyone else. Over time, Adrian stopped talking about his dreams out loud, not because they disappeared, but because he was tired of hearing people doubt him. Still, late at night, when the house was quiet and the world seemed less judgmental, Adrian would sit by his old desk with a notebook filled with ideas, plans for businesses, concepts for projects, visions of a life bigger than the one people expected him to live. Sometimes he wondered if everyone else was right. Maybe he was dreaming too big. Maybe success really wasn't meant for someone like him. But deep inside, beneath all the doubt and criticism, a quiet voice kept whispering something he couldn't ignore. What if they were wrong? What if the limits everyone talked about were never real to begin with? Adrian didn't know it yet, but the rejection he felt from the world around him would soon become the very fuel that pushed him further than anyone in that small town ever imagined. And one day, those same people who doubted him the most would be forced to see him in a completely different light. By the time Adrian Cole turned 22, the dreams he once kept hidden in notebooks had finally turned into something real. For years, he had quietly studied business models, watched countless interviews with successful entrepreneurs, and spent late nights teaching himself skills that no one around him seemed to care about. While others were out enjoying their weekends, Adrian was building something. It started as a simple idea: a small online platform designed to help local businesses reach customers outside their town. Adrian believed that small businesses were struggling not because they lacked quality, but because they lacked visibility. He spent months developing the concept. Every detail was carefully planned: the platform design, the business model, the growth strategy. To Adrian, it felt like the opportunity he had been waiting for. For the first time in his life, he felt confident enough to share his idea with the world. But the world didn't respond the way he hoped. The first investor he approached barely looked at his proposal before rejecting it. "Interesting idea," the man said casually, "but you don't have experience." The second meeting ended even faster. "Come back when you have something proven," another investor told him. Still, Adrian refused to stop. He kept sending emails, he kept requesting meetings, he kept pitching his idea to anyone willing to listen. But rejection after rejection followed. Some people didn't even reply. Others laughed politely before explaining why his plan would never work. The worst moment came when he decided to share his idea with a few old friends. He thought maybe they would join him, maybe they could build the project together. Instead, one of them chuckled and said, "Adrian, you've been talking about big dreams since we were kids. Maybe it's time to accept reality." The words stung more than he expected. That night, Adrian walked home feeling heavier than ever before. Even his family didn't react much differently. When he explained his plan at dinner, his father sighed. "You're wasting your time chasing something uncertain," he said. "You should focus on finding a stable job." For a moment, Adrian felt the same crushing doubt he had felt many times before. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe his idea really was unrealistic. Later that night, he sat alone in his small room staring at his laptop screen. The project files were still open. All the plans, all the work, all the effort from the past months. One simple decision could end it all. He could close the laptop, forget the idea, and move on with a normal life. No more rejection, no more embarrassment, just a safe, predictable future like everyone else expected. Adrian leaned back in his chair, exhausted. For the first time since starting the project, he seriously considered quitting. But then he remembered something. All the people who said someone like him could never succeed. All the moments he was told to stay realistic. Slowly, Adrian opened his laptop again. If nobody believed in him, then he would just have to prove them wrong. And even if he failed, at least he would fail knowing he tried. What Adrian didn't realize yet was that the hardest years of his life were only just beginning. But those years would also shape the man he was about to become. The next few years became the hardest chapter of Adrian Cole's life. After the endless rejections, most people expected him to finally give up and move on. But Adrian chose a different path. Instead of quitting, he decided to build everything on his own. Without investors, without partners, without anyone truly believing in him. To survive, Adrian took whatever jobs he could find. During the day, he worked long hours doing small freelance projects and temporary work just to pay rent and basic expenses. The work wasn't glamorous, and it certainly wasn't part of the future he had imagined. But every dollar he earned helped keep his dream alive. At night, when most people were sleeping, Adrian returned to his small apartment and opened his laptop. Those quiet hours became his real life. He redesigned his platform again and again. He fixed mistakes, he studied new strategies, he learned from every failure. Sometimes the work continued until sunrise. Exhaustion became normal, but the loneliness was even harder. One by one, the people around him slowly disappeared. Old friends stopped calling. Some believed Adrian had become obsessed with something unrealistic. Others simply moved on with their own lives. Even family gatherings became uncomfortable. Whenever relatives asked about his life, Adrian noticed the same expression on their faces when he explained his project. Polite smiles, hidden doubt. To them, Adrian was still chasing a dream that seemed impossible. There were nights when the silence in his apartment felt overwhelming. The glow of the laptop screen was often the only light in the room. And during those moments, Adrian sometimes questioned everything. Was all this sacrifice worth it? Was he wasting years of his life chasing something that might never succeed? The doubts were real, but every time those thoughts appeared, Adrian remembered the promise he made to himself. If he was going to fail, it wouldn't be because he gave up too early. So he kept working, week after week, month after month, year after year. Slowly, almost invisibly, the project began improving. The platform became faster, the design became cleaner, the idea became stronger. No one celebrated these small victories with him. No one applauded his progress. But Adrian understood something most people never realize. Real success is rarely built in front of an audience. It is built in silence, during the lonely days when no one is watching. What Adrian didn't know was that these quiet years of struggle were quietly preparing him for something unexpected. Because soon, one small moment would change everything, and the world that once ignored him would finally start paying attention. After years of working in silence, Adrian Cole had almost forgotten what it felt like to expect something good. Most days followed the same exhausting routine. Work during the day just to survive, build the platform late into the night. The progress was real, but it was painfully slow. To the outside world, it still looked like nothing was happening. Then, one ordinary evening, something unexpected happened. Adrian had just finished updating a new feature on his platform. It allowed small local businesses to promote their products more easily online. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was useful. As a small experiment, Adrian posted a short demonstration video online showing how the platform could help struggling businesses reach new customers. He uploaded it without much expectation. After all, he had shared his work online before. Almost nobody ever noticed. But this time was different. The next morning, Adrian woke up to something he had never seen before: hundreds of notifications. At first, he thought it was a mistake, but when he opened the video, his heart started racing. The views were climbing rapidly, thousands, then tens of thousands. Within hours, the video was spreading across social media. Small business owners from different cities began sharing it, explaining how much they needed tools like the one Adrian had created. Comments poured in. "This is exactly what small businesses need. Who built this platform? Where can we use it?" For the first time in years, people weren't doubting his idea. They were excited about it. By the end of the week, the video had reached hundreds of thousands of people. And with that attention came something Adrian had been chasing for years: opportunity. Investors who had ignored his emails before suddenly wanted meetings. Companies began reaching out with partnership offers. Even tech bloggers started writing about the unknown developer who had quietly built a platform that could help thousands of small businesses grow. Adrian could barely believe it. For years, he had been knocking on doors that never opened. Now, those same doors were opening on their own. But the strangest part wasn't the sudden attention. It was how quickly people's attitudes changed. The same type of people who once dismissed ideas like his were now calling it innovative, visionary, promising. Adrian sat in his small apartment one night, scrolling through the messages flooding his inbox. Part of him felt excited. Another part felt strangely calm, because he knew something the world didn't. This overnight success had actually taken years of silent struggle, years of rejection, years of loneliness, years of believing in something when no one else did. And deep down, Adrian realized something important. This breakthrough wasn't the end of his journey. It was only the moment the world finally caught up to the work he had been doing all along. But the biggest surprise was still waiting for him. Because very soon, people from his past would begin reappearing, and not all of them would come for the right reasons. Success has a strange way of revealing the true nature of people. Not long after Adrian Cole's platform began gaining attention, something unexpected started happening. People from his past slowly began reappearing. At first, it was small things. A message from an old classmate he hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey, Adrian, I just saw your project online. I always knew you were going to do something big." Adrian stared at the message for a moment. He remembered that same classmate laughing at his ideas back in school. Soon, more messages followed. Old friends who had disappeared during the difficult years suddenly wanted to reconnect. Some asked how they could be involved in the business. Others simply wanted to catch up. But the biggest change came from his own community. In the town where Adrian grew up, people who once dismissed his ambitions were now speaking about him with pride. Local newspapers wrote articles about his success. Former teachers told students they had once taught the young entrepreneur who was now making headlines. Even relatives who used to question his decisions now proudly shared his achievements with others. It felt strange. The same dreams that once sounded unrealistic were now being praised as visionary. Adrian wasn't angry about it, but he noticed something important. When life was uncertain and difficult, very few people stayed close. When success arrived, suddenly everyone wanted a place beside him. One evening, Adrian met an old friend for coffee. The friend talked enthusiastically about Adrian's company and hinted that he would love to join the team. As Adrian listened, he couldn't help remembering the conversation they had years earlier. The same friend had once told him it was time to accept reality. Adrian simply smiled, not out of bitterness, but out of understanding. Because the journey had taught him something valuable. Success doesn't just change your life, it changes the way people see you. And sometimes, it reveals who truly believed in you from the very beginning. For Adrian, that realization mattered more than the headlines or the growing numbers in his bank account. Because he had finally learned that recognition from the world often comes long after the struggle that built it. But Adrian's story wasn't truly about proving others wrong. It was about something much deeper. And that lesson would become clear in the final chapter of his journey. Years passed, and Adrian Cole's platform continued to grow far beyond what he had once imagined in his small apartment. What started as a simple idea to help local businesses had now expanded into a powerful network used by thousands of entrepreneurs across different cities. The company was thriving. Investors praised its innovation. Business magazines wrote about Adrian's journey. Young entrepreneurs began looking up to him as an example of persistence. To the outside world, Adrian's life now looked like the definition of success. But for Adrian, the most important change wasn't the money or recognition. It was the perspective he had gained through the years of struggle. Late one evening, Adrian found himself thinking about the boy he used to be. The boy sitting alone in a quiet room, surrounded by notebooks filled with ideas that no one believed in. Back then, success felt like a distant dream, something meant for other people, not someone from a small town with limited resources and constant doubts surrounding him. But the truth he eventually discovered was much simpler than he expected. Success wasn't reserved for the most talented or the most connected people. It belonged to those who refused to quit. Those who kept moving forward when progress felt invisible. Those who continued believing even when the world offered no encouragement. Adrian realized something important. The rejection he once feared had actually been one of the greatest gifts of his life, because every doubt forced him to grow stronger. Every closed door pushed him to find another way, and every lonely night spent working quietly had built the foundation for the life he was living now. In the end, the real victory wasn't becoming successful. The real victory was becoming the kind of person who never gave up on himself, and that was something no one else could take away. Not everyone will believe in your dreams. Some people will laugh. Some will doubt you. Some may even walk away when things become difficult. But their opinions do not define your future. Your persistence does. Sometimes, the greatest success comes from simply refusing to give up when the world expects you to. And one day, the same people who doubted you might look at your journey with a completely different perspective. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about struggle, perseverance, and success. And I'll see you in the next video.